Hi, this is Amy from Good Food on Earth, and I have a wonderful guest today for my Solutions podcast. And our guest is Roberto Pagliaroli. Did I pronounce that right?
Not
Sort of.
bad. Not bad.
Yeah, I should be better. I was in Italy for a little bit, but I'll have to brush up. So Roberto, I wonder if you could introduce yourself and Roberto does some soccer coaching and life coaching, and I wonder if you could tell us about what led you to go in that direction with your life.
Um, where do I begin? Okay, first of all, like Amy said, my name is Roberto Pagliaroli, and I am a life and wellness coach. I also coach youth soccer at the academy level with the Bradford Wolves Soccer Club. And first of all, soccer has always been a huge part of my life. Growing up, I wanted to become a professional soccer player, and my soccer journey was part of the whole experience of me playing at high levels. Was definitely part of my journey to becoming a life coach, let alone a soccer coach. And yeah, I played at high levels. I wanted to be professional when I was growing up, and when it didn't work out, it kind of led me along a path. I'm not going to say that wasn't meant for me, but it was more of a path of, what's next. Not really, just kind of coasting, more like enjoying life and stuff like that. So as I grew older and the soccer dream ended for me, um, I started working for the family company, which was a mechanical contracting company. And I always said to myself that it was either I was going to play professional soccer or take over my father's company. And it wasn't for lack of talent, because I was a talented player. I did represent the province of Ontario at age 13, 14. I did play in Italy at the age of 17. I was there in the fourth division at Campobasso at 17 years old, like I said. And and when I came back, it was a very deflating experience for me. Um, Growing up, I always, like I said, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew who I was, and it was my identity. It was like I was Rob, like the soccer player. That's what I wanted to do. It's what I wanted to be. It's all I thought about. It's all I spoke about. I literally believed it in my core that I was going to be playing at that level. And when I came back, it was very deflating. Um, I did try to go for a scholarship at that time, and I took the SATs and I handed my transcripts, and you have to be cleared by a place called Clearinghouse to qualify to go to school in the United States for NCAA regulations. And my grades weren't high enough. My SAT weren't high enough, so I just gave up. Basically, I just gave up. And again, like I said, I started, you know, living life in a way that was just kind of more for pleasure than for chasing a dream. I had kind of given up on my dream. And the best way I can describe that was kind of like being in a hot tub and the water is like slowly cooling, just slowly cooling. And I ended up working, full time for my father's company, just playing soccer, for fun. Traveled a lot. And after my 30th birthday, things started to change for me. So I noticed a change within me. I was kind of like the little weekend warrior, working full time out of my own place, living la vida loca with no responsibilities. And I said, what's next? So maybe I got to get married. I should get married, and that was the next part of my journey. So, to make a long story short, I ended up meeting my wife, or I should say ex-wife now, and I got married. And the year leading up to my wedding, I had a panic attack. It was in February of 2013. I had a panic attack, and I was completely rattled. From that point on, I was just suffering with so much anxiety, and I don't know what was the reason for it. I was saying to myself, like, this is supposed to be the happiest time of my life. I'm getting married, I'm supposed to live happily ever after. And basically what I realized was that I was living completely inauthentically. And it was just my time to wake up. And all the anxiety that I was experiencing was everything that I needed to face about myself. Now, when I mean anxiety, I mean like to the point where I couldn't go to work, where I was just completely unsettled. My mind was constantly chattering. I was getting very negative thoughts, very scary thoughts, like very graphic thoughts. I would be looking at a pair of scissors and I would get in visions of myself, with the pair of scissors in my hands, doing something, harming myself. And that was really frightening for me because that was completely everything that I wasn't. And it was actually a fear of mine, growing up was actually ironically enough was mental health and suicide. That was a huge fear of mine. So I remember going to the doctor and he prescribed me some antidepressants. He told me it was anxiety. And I'm like, how can it be anxiety? Like, I didn't even know what anxiety was. I didn't know what it was. And after 3 days of taking the antidepressants, I noticed they were making me feel worse. And I said to myself, I remember seeing a post on social media that said, the only pill you need is a positive mindset. And right there in that moment, I felt like, even now, as I'm telling you this, I feel the tingles in my body. I felt like I was really meant to see that post because something inside me said, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm experiencing, but I'm going to figure this out and I'm not going to be doing this. I would I would steer away from it. I wouldn't try push forward. And I had to really look at myself and realize this and look in the mirror. And I just started to see those limitations. I remember the first day I became aware of my mind, aware of my ego. And it was through meditation, as I mentioned to Amy earlier when I first spoke to her. And from that moment on, once was able to detach myself from the thinking mind and see past all that limitation, that's when it all started to crumble and I started to see who I really was at my core. And that was a teacher, and that was um, somebody to help others. And I started coaching because I've always had a love for the game. And first it was just about the love of the game, but when I actually was in the mix and being around the young kids, it was such a fulfilling feeling to help these young athletes. And I've always said that sport is not just sport. I feel like it's life on a field. What you're taught there, you can use in everyday life. And I started, I was really interested in spirituality, and I just kept learning and growing and evolving as a person. And it just came clear to me what my purpose was. My purpose is here. My purpose here is to teach people to become aware of themselves, because my pain I was able to transform into purpose. And my purpose is to be here in service of others, to help them awaken, to help them heal, to help them see their potential and live out their authenticity to create the life they want to live. So that's basically a little bit about why I became a coach. So
Yeah, that's so that's amazing. I wonder if we could dig into meditation and breathing, because a lot of kids and a lot of adults, they just kind of dismiss these concepts because they have a preconceived idea of how it's supposed to look. You're supposed to sit down on a mat, you do these funky breathing things, maybe you look kind of hippie-ish.
Mhm.
But when we were talking earlier, you said that we actually meditate, or we can do it all the time. And it's
Mm.
funny because I believe that too. So I
Mhm.
wonder if you could elaborate on what you mean. Like people will think, what do you mean? I thought you have to sit in a quiet place and no music, no sounds or anything.
Well, like I mentioned in my little intro about when I became self-aware, that aha moment, it was a point when I was able to realize that meditation is just where you place your attention.
Mm,
And the more you pay attention to your mind, the more you attach to your mind, the more you believe it, the more you give into it. You identify it. It's so if your mind is saying, "Oh, I'm this," or "I'm feeling this," or "I can't do this," then that's who you are, because you believe it, because your attention is on it. And what I mean by we're always meditating, we're always manifesting. An example, or I'll give you reference to my experience, and this helped me along my journey realize this, was when I was at the field. When I was at the field, there was absolutely nothing going through my mind. I was completely present. I would just move and react, and it was completely natural. And that, I started to dig into that. I started to, question, why is that? And the reason is because when you are doing things that you are meant to be doing, things that light you up, things that you enjoy, there's no there's no chatter in the mind. You're completely, you're present.
mm,
You're present. And meditation can be anything. It can be walking down the street. It can be, listening to a song. It can be, looking out the window while you're on a bus. It's just focused attention away from your mind. And every time your mind starts to chime in, that's your past, your ego, your fears, your doubts, whatever, coming in to get your attention. Your mind is designed to protect you, to look for the negativity around you. And this goes back to the caveman days as a survival mechanism. I'm sure Amy's mentioned it to the kids before, and that's basically what it is. And your ability to detach from that, to be present, to focus your awareness, your consciousness on what you're actually doing and what serves you, that's your power. So be mindful of what's crossing your mind at all times.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's like I like to call it, you make the conscious choice to have an intimate conversation with life. So
Mm,
you don't shy away from any of it and you're just fully like all of your senses are alert, but you're not stressing either any of them. And I like
mm,
to think of a lot of people think of the mind as like, oh, you need to suppress it, you need to stop it. But then what you're doing is you're actually focusing all your energy on that. And all you need to do is recognize your intellect is just one piece of you.
mm,
And it does, the thoughts and all that, they're like clouds. So let them come and go. Just
mm,
don't hold on to them, and don't employ your intellect for things that it doesn't need to be employed for, because then you start to feel anxious because your
mm,
mind is it's sending you that signal like, I can't do this.
mm,
This is not my job. I can't you're making me do something that I'm not equipped to do. Use your other
mm,
senses.
mm.
Yeah.
I want to actually share something before I move on to the next
Yes.
question regarding that. Um, well, like during my transition, as I was working in trades, like I said, with the family business, and when I knew what I wanted to do with my life, when the path was completely clear, and that's another thing I want to, kind of mention. When things are clear in your mind, when you see it clear as day, that's another thing that you are meant to be doing. When there's any cloudiness, any indecisiveness, indecision, that's your decision right there. But in those moments where I was going to work, and I was still experiencing heavy chatter, like stress in my body, anxiety in my body for being at work. And I always said to myself, oh, it's because I'm here. I don't want to be here. It's like, and I can, that chatter was just a victim mindset coming out, like not accepting where I was. I was choosing to be at work, and I knew that work was a means to an end until I was coaching full time.
Mhm.
And I know there's a little bit of, a period of time where I need to be doing both. It's just the way it is. I'm transitioning. I have bills to pay and mouths to feed and a life to support, right? So once I realized that I was doing it to myself, I was giving into those thoughts and emotions. I had to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm going to be here for a period of time, and how do I want to experience this? That's when I started to really learn the power of auditing yourself and questioning yourself and shifting your mindset. No, you're not going to love it. You're not going to love it. You're not going to get that feeling, oh, I love going here in the morning. You're not. I'm going to be honest with you. You're not. But you can get up and be grateful for it. You can get up and be content and satisfied with it. And that in itself is going to make you happy because you've accepted and you've allowed it to be there. You're not rejecting it. You're not what's the word I'm looking for? You're allowing it to be there. You're just not rejecting the situation. You're at peace with it. Okay, I'm here. And once you make peace with that and all that goes away, there's nothing there. There's just an empty space for you to create. And that's when your natural self comes out. Okay, this is what I got to do. I'm going to do it. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
and that's shifting your attention from what you don't want to what you need, what's going to serve you in the moment. And that's what the essence of meditation is. It's to take your attention and focus it.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's amazing about that, because a lot of times people will interpret that as, oh, you're just, you know, accepting the bad thing and you're not doing anything to change it. But when you change your perception, what you're actually doing is you're creating that clarity so you can see things that you didn't see before. Like if you're working in a job that you're like, I'm so frustrated, I'm here, but what you're doing then is when you're holding on to those negative thoughts, when you're there in that present moment, you're not seeing that, hey, maybe there's something here that I can learn that I
Right.
can then take with me and empower me and help me to
Absolutely.
grow. So it
Absolutely.
changes that whole dynamic and you start to see people differently. You take them out of their boxes, you start to see the building, everything differently, and yourself too.
That's
um
well, that's what I mentioned the other day. It's like that's what it's what your mind does. It needs to judge, analyze, critique, and when you're in that mode and that's all you see because your emotions are revved up, your thoughts are going to equal what you're feeling, and it's that little bit of awareness. Okay, well, there's a thought, there's the emotion. These are the blinders I'm seeing right now. This is all I see. So it's that awareness to focus your attention. Okay, let's drown the noise so I can focus my attention on what I need. And when you shift your perspective, once that smoke clears, you're going to feel differently about it. And that's the key. Your emotions are what motivate you to work and move.
Yeah. So that's actually going to move us on to our next question, because right now there's a lot of fear that's going around, and you've touched on this a little bit with the negativity bias and the way the mind works. But what are your thoughts on the idea of fear itself, and can it be helpful in any way, or is it just something that we should try to get rid of? Like many people say, oh, fear is false and just get rid of it and you'll be fine. So what do you think about that?
Well, this is this is something that I really got acquainted with and learning about, especially within myself. And the thing about fear is there's real fear. To answer, first of all, to say, like, is there use for it? Absolutely. Emotions are what drive us. And there is a certain amount of fear that's going to be optimal for your performance, just a little bit to give you that I guess motivation. Like, for instance, if you're playing a sport and you're up against a tough opponent, that hey, if I don't bring my A game, I'm gonna I you know we're I'm not gonna win, right? So that little bit of fear is gonna motivate you to try harder, to focus even more. In terms of, and then like, if people say, like you said, like, oh, just shove it down. It's an illusion. Fear is an illusion.
Mm,
It's just a mental thing. Well, that mental thing, because you're attaching to it, you're focusing on it, your awareness is on it, and you identify what it's real for you.
mhm.
um, Now, is all fear an illusion? No. If you're being chased by a bear, that's real fear.
Yeah.
That's real, in the moment, physical, like it's happening.
Mhm.
Now, the mental part is, I like, again, on my experience, it wasn't actually what I was thinking about. It was how let me find the right words here, how I related to it.
Mhm.
What is it about me in my life that is causing me to be afraid of this situation? Why? What is it about me that I can't handle? What is it about me that I can't accept or can't? So it's really about what is the underlying, because I'm all about limiting beliefs, fears and doubts, anxieties. They all come, even depression, they come from limiting beliefs that are in our subconscious that we're not aware about. And when the clues are in those little automatic thoughts, how you talk to yourself, when you procrastinate, when you worry excessively, you know, perfectionism, stuff like that. Those are clues that, if you have a fear like, oh, um, you have a, like a social anxiety, when you think, oh, I won't fit in, I'm not this enough, I'm not cool enough, I'm not smart, whatever. Underneath all of that, there's a belief, a limitation about yourself that you're not aware of. And that's what's actually causing that fear. It's how you look at yourself. And all the other stuff is just the stuff that's kind of masquerading it. So fear is something definitely that is created inside the mind and is also destroyed in the mind. And that comes down to your level of awareness.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So I want to talk about empowerment and how, who's actually responsible for your health, for your freedom. But before we do that, I want to share this really great short film that a teenager in Canada just sent out to show the effects of what's happening to her individually. So let me just bring that up here. And this is called Numb. Here we go. So this was just released or put up. It's by Liv McNeil. And it says here, this powerful short film by British teenager Liv McNeil tells one story of millions of how lockdown is punishing children by denying them education, social contact, and generally a normal life. So it focuses a lot on what we've seen, this surge in mental health and self-harm that kids as young as 10 have been doing, which is, it's sad, but it doesn't have to go there. And that's why we're going to talk to Roberto about empowerment and what kids can do to help themselves, and they don't have to be so helpless. So let me just play this great little short film she created. All right. So yeah, it's it can be hard. Especially when you're a kid and you feel like you you don't have the means to break out and do what you want to do. I I think maybe you could see from that video, it's almost like your body realizing this is frustrating and just
Mm.
having to release. Um, so I want to get your input. Um, Kids, what can they do to help themselves, and who do they need to look for drugs and doctors notes and for their parents to help them out, like say their parents are terrified, and parent parents are just kind of developing people as well. So what can kids do?
First of all, I just want to say that that video definitely hit home with me. I have such a soft spot for children. I'm like a big kid myself. I'm a father of two, and this is another reason why I'm in this work, is because teaching awareness and this sort of stuff, and coping skills, so children can cope with the pressures of life. And uh, speaking of empowerment, learning how to empower themselves so they can live authentically, because I truly do believe from my experience that we're all here to do something. We're all here to serve our purpose through our authenticity. And imagine the world we can create if we're teaching these young kids on how to live authentically and empowered lives, and they're doing what they're meant to be doing. Imagine the world we can create. And when I see stuff like that, I'm not going to give my views on what's happening, but it does anger me. And yeah, I actually I don't know if you saw, I was like wiping my eyes. I had tears in my eyes. It was
Yeah, it is. It's a hard film to watch. She did a really wonderful job, and I think that's the second takeaway from that. There's the message of how she's feeling, but look at the creativity she had. I mean,
absolutely.
how incredible to make a film like that. This is what the potential people have. They can do such incredible things and express themselves. So what advice can you give to kids if they're in that kind of situation? What can they do to lift themselves out of it?
Well, this is probably one of the hardest things to understand, or to grasp, is sometimes, you know, when the walls are closing in on you, and, you have to try and see what the possibility is. You have to try and clear enough of the smoke to see what is possible in the moment. Like I mentioned earlier, I was able to transform my pain into purpose. With every time there is pain and suffering, there is an opportunity for you to grow. And you may not see it in the moment. And I know it's not an easy thing to do if you don't have an outlet, if you don't have no one to talk to about it. Um, but one of my mantras is diamonds come from pressure, and there's always something positive to gain from a negative situation. And if you are feeling like you can't move forward and something has you stuck, you need to find somebody to pull you out of that, and to help you become aware of what you're doing to yourself. You are responsible for your well-being. You are responsible for empowering yourself. I used the pandemic. I couldn't do a lot of the things I love to do, but I use it as an opportunity. I use it as an opportunity to go to school to get my coaching certification. I mean, not everyone has, you know, opportunities to take those, to do things like that. But like I said, there's always something. And we mentioned earlier about that perspective, about being in that feeling and being in that emotion. You just have to learn to shift your perspective to what is going to help you in this moment. What do you need? What is this moment trying to teach me? Really get curious about that feeling. Really get curious about it. It's not who you really are. It's there. Remember, it's there to teach you something. It's there to show you something. Okay? That pain, the mind, it's there to show you something. So it's that little bit of awareness to see, to actually question it and see what's possible from it. And I know that's not always easy to do. The thoughts come, the negative, why are they coming? Why are these thoughts coming? Again, they're there to teach you something, but the more you resist them, the more they're going to come. And the more you reject them, the harder they come. So you need to allow them to be there. They're trying to tell you something. Listen to them. Sit, be still. I know it's hard, but try and learn from them. That's the best piece of advice I can give you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, when I was younger, one of the key things I found was that I could come up with ideas about what I thought might be able to help me. And sometimes, it'd be like, oh, I wish I had such and such. And then I thought to myself, if I can think of that idea, then there must be a recognition within me that that's something I already know. So I can give that to myself. And one of the best things you could do is to become your own best friend. If you do that, if you hold your hand throughout life, then whatever you come up to face, you'll be all right. It'll be hard. I'm not, things will always come out out of left field, even when you get older. That's just gonna happen. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
I couldn't agree more with what you said. Like self-love, like you're responsible for it. If you can't love yourself, if you can't learn to love yourself and deal with stuff, it doesn't matter how many people in the world love you. It's not going to matter.
Mm,
It's what's going on inside of you that matters. Everything is energy, and that frequency, that energy that you're putting out to the world, like you're going to get whatever you're putting out.
mm,
And if you are love, if you are loving yourself, you will get love. If you are positivity, if you are joy, you are going to get more positivity. You are going to get more joy. So again, it's about that perspective and that awareness and catching yourself in those moments and pulling yourself out, learning to pull yourself out of the quicksand, because that's what it is. It's quicksand.
mm,
The more you pay attention to what's going on in your mind, the more you're going to sink. That awareness behind the thinking, you have to be, okay, there's that thought. This is what it's making me feel. I don't like the way it's making me feel. What can I do to change this? What do I need to be doing right now? What do I need to be saying to myself? I'll give you just a small example. This is from being on the field with little kids, and I'm doing an exercise, and I'll see a kid struggling, and they're looking around. I can see they're comparing themselves to other kids. I can see it right there in the moment, and I'll go over and I'll just question, hey, what's going on? What, do you need help with anything? Are you stuck? And they say, oh, I can't do this. This is too hard. And my question to them is, I go, is that helping you right now? I go, yes, it's hard. And if you quit, you'll never get it. But if you continue and you say to yourself, you just add another little word just at the end of that, I can't do this yet. Just adding that little word completely changes the perspective of how you look at it and how you feel about it. It gives you hope. It gives you something positive, like, okay, I don't get it yet. I'm gonna keep going. And it brings your focus back to what you're doing. Your mind is looking, comparing, oh, it's trying to protect you. Oh, you can't do this. It's gonna hurt you. Let's stop trying. No, you gotta learn to pull yourself out
mm.
by really paying attention to what's going on in here.
Yeah. Yeah. And before we end here, I also would like to touch on what you said with the quicksand. And I know how overwhelming it can feel because it just keeps
Absolutely.
repeating like a cycle. But it's important to know how quickly you can get out of that.
Mm.
It's never too late. right? No matter how heavy it seems, no matter how long it's gone on for, it's never too late to
Mm,
just switch your mindset and say, I've had enough,
mm.
right? That's okay. I've been there. I think I'm going to change direction now. You know,
I
you,
just wanted, I
yeah,
just wanted, oh, sorry, were you done?
yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to give a little tip on how to become aware of yourself and what worked for me. Um, if you do find yourself in a moment where you're in the quicksand and it's pulling you down and you feel low or you feel anxious or whatever the case is, what I meant by being still is, this is the hard part, is to literally sit down in a quiet space with yourself and just take slow, very slow, deep breaths through your nose and out of your mouth. And just every time your mind wants to pay it, or you want to pay attention to what your mind is doing with thought, bring it back and visualize the air going in your nose down to your stomach, not breathing through your lungs, through your stomach. Breathing slow, deep. And what you're doing is you are slowing your mind down. You are calming your nervous system. And ultimately, what you're doing is you're creating that little bit of space that where your awareness is of what you're feeling and what's happening. So you're able to actually sift through the emotion, sift through the thoughts once it's calmed down. And then you're going to start to notice how your mind works. You're going to start to notice, oh, my mind is just creating that thought. That's not my thought. That's just a thought. That is just one possibility. That is your superpower. It's your imagination, and the fear, the negativity is just your imagination working against you. It's your level of awareness that's going to detach yourself, and you're going to create a new possibility with your imagination. And it just comes down to breathing. And every time your mind wanders, bring it back. Bring it back. It's a practice. The more you flex that muscle, the stronger it gets. Don't get frustrated if you can't get it. Mind, they keep coming. It's okay. Let them come. Let them come. I'm gonna add to Amy's comment about the clouds. I like to refer to them as unwanted house guests. That they knock on your door without giving you a call. Hey, we're coming up. They show up. Okay, you let them in. You give them something to eat a little bit, and then you pull the old Italian move. You make the espresso, and you show them to the door. That's it. You allow them to be there, because if you reject them, there's the suffering. And it's the sitting there in the stillness with the breathing slow. You're going to slow your mind down. You're going to calm your body down, and you're going to clear your mind. And then you're going to be like, okay, what do I need to do to make me feel better? What do I need to do to be productive? What do I need to do to relax even? Sometimes you just need to relax, and that's okay too. You don't always have to be doing something.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Roberto. And for this whole interview and your time. I want to leave off by telling people where they can find you. So you've got 2 Instagram accounts, which I'm going to link in the description, as well as a Facebook page. And on your Instagram, you also have videos that you're going to share some links. We'll attach here where you're giving some tips while you're coaching. And that's going to be a wonderful resource. I want to ask you if there's any other way that people can reach out to you, or if there's any last words you want to give our audience.
Um, no, I think they can reach out to me through the social media outlets that you're going to provide. Do you need me to say them out here, or are you just going to?
I'll put them in. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, like, again, it's up to you. And it's, for me, healing, awareness is the key to anything. Once you become aware, you are a superhuman, and you can start to do whatever you want to do. And I'm living proof. It's a slow process, but once you understand you are the creator of your own reality, then you are living powerfully. And I'm not saying you're going to be bulletproof, but you're going to be able to learn how to deal with it on your own. and you're going to grow from it, from every challenge, every situation. And that's what's led me again to become a coach and creating the courses that I'm creating. And I look forward to creating more to help people, because that's what I love to do.
Mm, yeah. Thank you so much, Roberto.
My pleasure.